everybody, this is Dave, aka Serial Killer. Welcome to installment number 7. Cool. Alright, we're going to digress a bit, just due to popular request, I guess. I'm going to step away from the back. Left this side bare. We'll do some of it together. I'm not going to cover the whole process on a video because that would be incredibly painful and long. But any of the key things, I'll try and cover them if there's anything anyone wants to see specifically with the back, as far as how we brought it to this point. Just give a holler. Say, hey Dave, I'd like to see this part. Just say so, and we'll cover it. But beyond that, today, we're just going to take a step backwards, and we're going to work on the front here. And what we're going to do is we're going to do the neck seal. I've decided to make it solid, not go the route of rubber or foam or anything like that. So we're going to cover the neck seal, and we're going to do some battle damage. Primarily Halo 3 game accurate, so there'll be some blotches of damage here on the right side of the chest, and a couple slashes that go down, which will inevitably continue down to this piece here. When it's installed, there'll be a couple gouges in there, but that's another time. Alright, so we have some work to do. We're going to start off with the neck seal, and let's get to it. First things first. Thinking ahead as usual, because that's what's key when you're working on anything like this. If you want something to turn out properly, you want something to turn out nice, then you know, you have to think ahead. And just you're not creating any extra work for yourself. Here's a prime example. So we're going to start with the neck seal. Now, right off the bat, what we can see here is this ugly line that's from the pep, and it's quite the angle. So naturally, okay, well, we have to reshape it, so we're gonna grind that all down. Now, I could just pick up my rotary tool and just start killing it and reducing it, bringing it down to a smooth transition here. Magically enough, what would happen is, oh crap, look, I broke through. So what I've done already is I've built up the area. Just one of those common sense things. So I put a pretty generous coat of Bondo on, and it's already been cured. It's been sitting for about an hour. I figured there's no reason to cover that on a video because, I mean, let's face it, everyone's put Bondo on before. But now, this pretty well guarantees that I'm not going to break through. You can see where that angle is. It's barely visible here in comparison to that. So, I mean, this piece is getting quite heavy with all the filler that's on it. But like I've said before, I don't actually plan on wearing this for any prolonged period of time. All the pieces of the armor that I'm building will be molded and casted. Okay, so now that we've reinforced the back, we're just going to move right to bringing that line down and, you know, just making everything a little bit more uniform. There are some low spots. There are definitely some high spots. There's one error with the pep that happened here. You can see it comes right up almost to the lip there. We're going to have to bring that right down. Once again, reinforced, so chances of breaking through are slim. And if there's any thin spots, we'll just add some Bondo back in later on, and that'll resolve it. So let's get going. I'm not going to use a crazy speed, but enough to get the job done. Just do a little cleanup. Okay, so now it's much more of a smooth transition. Now I'm not going to take it all level just by subtraction. There will be some areas of addition, just because there is only so much I want to decrease the overall height of this. In my opinion, it's already a bit too high from the pep work. If you look at the game models, it's about 2/3 of this much of an elevation change. So just looking through, making sure we don't see any light. Still nice and solid. We're good. So now we're going to take down the sides here. Well, this side more than the other one, just to make it level as well. No real need to, I guess, video that. It's just more of this. So we'll get all this down to a uniform height, and then we'll pick back up. All right. After much sanding, this is where we are. I've also shaped the neck seal here. So this is basically the shape it's going to conform to. It terminates at the top of the lock on each side, and that's our perimeter. Now, clearly, wherever there's still primer left, that's a low spot. With a piece of paper like this, when you're rondoing it, when you're resining it, it's going to sink. Unless you make 50 million different braces and different supports inside it, it'll still even happen. So a little bit of work needed to clean that up, but everything is pretty well on an even plane now. There are low spots, no high spots. Basically now, what we're going to do, we're going to give a coat of Bondo to the whole base, right? Just to be able to give it a gradual curve, because there is a bit of a bump here. But if I sand any more than that, then I'm just going to have to bulk up the rear of it again. As you can see, right here. Oh no! I've been stabbed. It's through. It's through. So yeah, nobody's perfect. We had a little spot where we didn't build it up enough, so when I do the layer of Bondo in here, I'm going to apply a bit to the back just to reinforce that that spot where we had breakthrough, and that'll be the end of that. So mix up some Bondo and we'll get to it. Okay, got our Bondo mixed. Moving quickly. First things first, we flip it over and put a little bit of Bondo on the back where the hole is, because I want it to press through. And being that we're going to be Bondoing the other side to do a coat with the sole purpose of just leveling everything out, this will provide positive pressure on the other side. There we go, that should do it. Okay, there, it's coming through, exactly what we want. And now let's get started on this side. Now I have a few different Bondo applicators. They're all cut to size to fit in all the various different scenarios that could present themselves, such as this tiny little spot right here. And now moving on to the bigger one. I don't really like this song. Normally I have pretty good luck with music. Today, not so much. Alright. Okay, and our goal here is just to bring up the low spots. There we go. Now moving on to a bigger one. so we can get this area in pretty well a couple swipes. Now, if you notice, I'm concentrating with the filler only where there's primer left over. That would be the low spots. Everywhere else where it's sanded okay is okay. Now, this isn't one of those spots that have to be spot on just because there's a lot of detail that's going to go in here as far as building it up and whatnot. So any imperfections will more than likely be hidden by the details. That doesn't mean we're going to be a pig here, but it does give us a little latitude to work. Okay. Hey, music, good luck is back. There we go. We're good. All that's left now is just to let this set up. And then sand it. This is the most boring part of the job right now, where you have to play the waiting game. But being that there's not much we can do about that, we're going to have to wait about 20 minutes for this to set up enough so we can sand it. And we're good to go now. Right on time. This stuff's starting to firm up. I'm just building a little ledge here, so it'll be a bit easier to make a transition. And limits the amount of spot putty that we're going to have to use. There we go. Now with our handy dandy razor blade, it's starting to gel up so we can get rid of the bulky stuff that was sitting around there. And it limits the amount of sanding that we're going to have to do, getting rid of those high spots. That, despite being kind of gunky looking, looks much better. It's one nice smooth surface now. Here, what I did was, I don't know if you can see the color change. I basically took the razor blade across because I knew that's where the highest point was. And I took the razor blade across it because I want to expose that section, because I don't want to be sanding later on, wondering, well, how much more do I have to hit that? So now basically all I have to do is concentrate the sanding in here and over here, now that I know where this is. So then ultimately at the end I just need to bring this section here in its entirety back down to that level where the previous layer is, and that tells me that we're at the right height. And yeah, that's about it for now. Next, once it's cured, some sanding, and obviously I won't show the sanding, that would be quite boring, but we'll move on afterwards. Do a little bit of glazing, and once it's glazed up and we have all the little spots that we're not going to be able to reach after we put the details on, we'll get into moving in with the detail. And once we're done there, detail for the battle damage. Alright, this is where we are now. everything has gotten a preliminary sand, and it's quite smooth now. Nice, one level. And there are some jagged spots in the corners, but no need to kill ourselves with that. That's what the spotting putty's for. That'll take care of that. Any of the little low dips that there are here. And as far as evening things out, so we'll get a coat of that on here right now, and we'll let it dry up. We'll give it a quick sand just to limit the amount of glaze that's on there. And then we'll start with the detail. First we'll draw everything in, and we'll start brittling up. Alright, glaze coat done. It's just starting to dry up now. Once this completely dries, we'll give it a quick sand and move on. Now, this isn't necessary. A lot of people have asked me why I do this. I do this, the primary reason for this is all the inside corners, when I push this glazing putty in, it bevels it and rounds out the corners. So it's no longer a sharp 90-degree corner anymore, it's now a bevel. And that's just conforming to everything else I've done. Nothing here on this piece has a sharp angle on it. Everything is rounded over. Right? Everything is rounded over. That's even true on the helmet. Even with the helmet, everything has been rounded over. There are no real sharp edges. Even the edges that are supposed to be sharp, if you can see, it's been broken. It's rounded over. Now, once again, these are just personal design choices. I like the way it looks. I like the way it flows. And, you know, really, it looks just fine the other way if you just decide to leave everything a sharp angle. But I prefer this. That's just my way. It's, oh wow, you can really see it now. I don't think it showed up in any of the other pictures, but you can see on the helmet there is a texture. And that is courtesy of the hammered metal paint. That's something that I highly, highly recommend if you want that look. And if you want the smooth look, I advise against it. But I was going for the really casted look. Now it's really emphasized right now because I haven't flattened this helmet out yet. I plan on using like a matte finish clear coat on it, which will really dull down that sheen, which I really don't want the sheen. But yeah, I'm happy with how the helmet came out for my first ever go at it. But yeah, rounded corners. This is ultimately the look that I'm going for the whole armor. That rounded over look. And personally, I like it. Now we'll just wait for the glaze coat to dry, and then we'll move on to sanding and finally the detail. Alright, sanding done, and we're nice and smooth now. All the bevels are in, and I'm happy with it. Looks good. I'm going to let this sit now. I just want to make sure it's completely nice and dry, or else you run into issues if you Bondo over this. You can have liftoff in areas where you have the spotting putty. That's why it's always good to make sure that the spotting putty is a very thin coat. You can't really do any build-up with spotting putty because it's very brittle. It'll break right off. Now, while we're waiting for that to finish curing, because there are some shiny spots, we're going to move on to the battle damage. Alright, now as far as the battle damage goes, it may be difficult to see, but it kind of looks like an atlas here. I just, with some pencil, drew in some rough marks. I have no intention of actually following these precisely, but they're just a point of reference, more for location than anything else. And the way I'm going to put in the battle damage is I first get it in with a rotary tool with a cutting bit on it. It's like a flush cut router bit. And I'll basically start tracing out the shape that I want. This isn't really an exact science. This might not be for everyone. It takes a certain level of steadiness and creativity, have you, I guess, to do this. For people who aren't all that good at drawing or just sketching up and whatnot, what I would suggest is go with a piece of paper and sketch out the pattern you want, or maybe like overlay a piece of paper here so you can get the dimension that you're dealing with, and just start scribbling your little damage areas. Then what you do is, once you have it, okay, well, I like that, cut the damage piece out, put it down here with a little piece of tape or something, and just trace it. And then from there you can use a rotary tool, you can use files, blades, things of that nature to put your detail in. Now, being the nature, one important thing to think about when you're doing detail work, like battle damage, as we're doing right now, is I've written this in posts on my thread before, but I think some people may have difficulty getting their head around it. The key to making this look real is, well, what is it? Other than being battle damage, what caused it? Right? So this battle damage here was caused by, for sake of argument, say a plasma discharge. So it wasn't physically hard matter that came into contact with this. So right away, if it's not something hard and metallic that came and hit it, you're not going to have a scraped and gouged look. Being that it was like a plasma weapon or some type of energy discharge weapon that did this, it's going to be almost like heat damage. It's almost like a melted property to it. So it's not going to have any really sharp angles to it. It's going to be very liquidy, as if metal melted and then set. And ultimately, in the end, that's what we're going to be going for here. Let's get to it. We're going to start by getting our rough shapes and sizes in, and we'll see how this goes. Hopefully, everything goes well on the first shot. The nice thing about this is, although it's some work, if you don't like what you end up with, just put a little layer of filler over it, sand it back to this, and then start again. Alright, here we go. Cutting bit, mid-speed, it's probably like 15,000 RPMs, I guess. And taking our time, thinking about what we're doing before we do it. right now basically what I'm doing is I'm trying to just make my rough dimensions so it's easier for me to do this and stay within the confines of it. It's kind of like sketching with no eraser. Okay. Okay, and this is what we're left with right now. I don't think I mind it. It needs to be dropped down to create more of a recess, but overall I'm pretty happy with the shape. Now it's time to switch tools and continue. Alright, what I've switched to now is a stone attachment with a round over. And, you know, this is basically like sanding, but with a predetermined profile. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over it, and this is where I'm going to create the depth and the concave for the battle damage. Now, I can't get everything with this because of its size. I would just destroy the existing detail. But simultaneously, while I do this, I feel that it's a bit too jagged for me. So I think some of the areas I'll be smoothing and rounding them over just to look more like it was melted. Because right now it looks like something exploded. So, let's go. And remember, something like this will taper inwards as it goes down, so the base of it will be 2-3 millimeters in from the outer perimeter of the damage. So you don't want it to look like a cookie cutter, straight up and down. I hope you guys are getting something out of this, because this is very difficult to do. I'm catering to the camera right now. So here's hoping someone gets something from this. Okay. Alright, I think I just achieved what I'm looking for now. Let's see. You get a real sense of depth now with this one. You can see it's multiple layers almost. You can see that the hottest point was right in the center, so everything really fell down, and it tapers inwards. And that's pretty well the look I wanted to achieve. And what I'll do is, once this is painted up, this is going to get smoothed out a bit more, but once this is painted up, the silver exposure from underneath will expand beyond this damage. So it'll come out like, say, a couple to a few, maybe a couple millimeters, and that'll just show the expanse and enhance that curvature and enhance that depth. So yeah, I'm just going to go and I'm going to do these other three following the same means that I just did with that, and we'll see how it comes out. Alright, so I've finished up and we're in the rough done position here. I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. You can see the dimensionality of it, you can see all the different levels. It's very organic looking. Very almost like a burn, how it's focused at its highest in the center, and it weakens as it comes out. I think it looks okay. It looks a bit overpowering right now because of the stark color difference, but I think it turned out okay. I just did a little bit over here on this side, just for game accuracy. Nothing too special, just similar to the other sides. And yeah, that's it. That's basically how I do battle damage. One of the other ways, by rough means, I use files and X-Acto blades, things of that nature, just to get a coarseness. Notice there's a coarseness here that is absent on this side. This side is much more smooth versus this, where this is very jagged. This isn't finalized yet. This is just a rough, just to see if I like it. I'm kind of I'm up in the air about this. I don't know that I like it. This came out okay. Once that's all silver and hammered with the green over top, it'll look much nicer. And yeah, so that's done for now. Any questions, let me know. For now, let's move on to the next seal. Alright, where we're at now is I'm basically starting the next seal. What I've done is I've done a crude sketch as to what we're putting in here. And I've taped off the collar. So I'm going to put some Bondo on here to create a lip. This is where the attention to detail comes in. The only reference I have to work with after I've put the Bondo on, the only reference I have to work with is I've put a little bit of pencil, about 1 millimeter thick, on the tape, just so I know when I'm cutting it off, I know how much room I have, and when I'm getting close, so when I see the black, then I know got 1 millimeter. So let's mix up some Bondo and we'll put it on. Okay, Bondo's mixed. Let's get to it. As we're on a time crunch here. And you know, I'm not trying to get this all done in one shot as far as coats. Ideally, if I can do it, bonus. But I'm not under the illusion that it's going to happen guaranteed. Right now, my main concern is getting it proportionally covered and getting the shape committed. Because I can always come back and put some more on top. And I'm trying to be as conscious as possible of the tape. I don't want to go over too far because it's just going to make it that much more difficult to figure out where I am. Let's get ourselves a new razor blade, nice and sharp. I'll just first start by cleaning the inside. Okay. So we're not looking to encroach on the next seal itself. Okay. Here we go. And I'm not gonna lie, this does take a steady hand. So this sort of thing might not be for everyone. Okay, moving slowly and methodically. Okay, I can start to see the pencil line there. And as I've said before, I mean, the way I do things, you've noticed if you've been following along, it's not often that I break out the power tools. Most of the work I do is done by hand, using chisels, files, blades, things of that nature. You know, there's only so precise you can be with a power tool because of its nature. But they absolutely do have their place. Okay, all that's left to do is just clean up the top here, just give us a nice level surface. And for that I'll use my bone scraper. Some people, quite a few people have asked me, oh, where can I get those? I've been looking high and low to try and find them. You know, I had a conversation. I have a dentist friend in the family. I inquired, well, hey, if I wanted another one of these, how much would it cost? You would have to order it from a dental supplier, and they cost about $120 each. So, needless to say, I'll be happy with just this one, because I'm not spending $120 on a dentistry tool. Well, number one, you can't exactly just order. They don't sell to the public. The only people that can order from the dentistry suppliers are licensed dentists. And it just, its luck has worked its way for me this time around. So, that's the only reason I have this thing. Or else, you know, you'd be confined to some type of modeling or sculpting product. And if there is anyone out there who knows of a product like this that is used in the modeling world, I'd be very interested to hear about it. So please feel free, let me know. I'm sure other people might be interested in it too. Alright, I'm just going to finish cleaning up and leveling this. And we'll pick back up after that. Alright, this is where we are now. Got the lip on. It's pretty smooth. I've rounded it over, and I've started drawing in the other details. How everything is basically going to sit. Next, I'm going to work on the two raised pieces on the next seal, and you know, I just don't want to get too in detail with the drawings, because during cleanup and stuff, the drawings will get erased, and I'll have to just redraw them. But now we're just going to tape it up and build this top ledge up now. Alright, tape is on, Bondo's fixed. Let's get to it. Alright. Now it's just a lather, rinse, repeat, really. Just need to build up these little neck seal details. Alright, this is where we are now. Alright, it's coming along. Looking pretty good. Time consuming, but you know, I enjoy it, so it's no big deal. Next, here, centerpiece, and then the two pieces that come down the front of the chest. Beyond that, I don't think I'm going to do any more. I mean, you can see that there's supposed to be something in this area here on either side, but it's never very clear. I mean, I've watched Red vs. Blue to try and see what it is. I've looked at images, and it's always blurred in the background. So it's going to stay like this unless something changes. And yeah, so now some lather, rinse, repeat. Got to do some more taping, some more Bondo, and we'll take a look at what it's like when it's done. Alright, here's where we are now. Noticing a trend here. But it's coming. It's coming along. Starting to look like a neck seal. All that's left now is these two pieces here. These are going to be somewhat time consuming because they're a bit more angular. But yeah, let's get to them and we'll take a look at how everything looks when it's all done. Alright, the last part that I'm doing right now, I've decided to take it on a different way. Let's have a look. Alright, I've done one side. And it came out pretty good. And I'm just using modeling clay. And I drew the template in, and now I'm going to pour it. And, you know, it's just one of those times where, you know, a little ingenuity is needed. But it worked well for the first one. Let's do the second one, and we'll take a look. Alright, after much work, we are pretty well done. One thing I should note. I forgot to turn the camera on for one portion that I did. I apologize, but it does happen to me when I'm in the middle of something. I do tend to forget. Here's how we are. I've got the glaze coat on, and I think it turned out pretty darn good. As far as these lower details here, what I did and what I meant to turn the camera on for, and I did manage to take a couple pictures. What I did was I used modeling clay and basically drew on the pattern and built a dam around it, and then did a Bondo pour on the inside, basically the same way that I did the locks, only I used clay because it's more suited for this, where it's a free-form shape, and it worked pretty well. It needs a final sanding, and then it will be completed final rough, and that's pretty well the condition that the rest of the chest piece is in right now. Now I've had to do some modifications and whatnot, and just some general cleanup. That's why I don't take it any further than rough final. Yeah, it just I find it easier for myself that when I'm finishing something, I'd rather wait till everything's done, finish it all at the same time. So a little spot here, a little sanding there, and then it's all good to go. The problem with finishing it at this point is exactly this. If I had gone to the effort to make this final, so a final sanding, final, ready and complete, then well, what do you do about these little areas that you have to modify? Then you end up having to do the work all over again. So basically, I bring it to the point where it's rough finished, which it is now, and I let it sit like that until the front and back is done, and that is the final step before paint. So we're pretty well done now. I'm happy with how it turned out. It was a lot of work. I will be totally honest with you. Part of me thinks, you know, it would have been wiser to go with foam, but like I said, I have intentions of molding this, and I don't know how well the foam would have stood up to the molding process. Chances are I would have just ripped the foam right off. So it's done now. Learned a few new things as I went, as everyone will when they go and they try new things. This isn't a steadfast science, it's an art, and yeah, necessity is the mother of invention. Well, that's about it for now. If anyone has anything that they'd like to see covered that hasn't been, or you know, just anything that they'd like any more information on, they need clarification on, feel free, ask, and I'll answer it to the best of my ability. If something wasn't covered properly, then we'll cover it again. That's about it for now. We'll pick up again with the next video, where we'll finish up the back piece, and we'll see exactly how we did that, all the key points. But until then, this is Dave, aka Serial Killer, signing off, and thanks everyone for watching. Take care.